Hello YouTube. Today I'll be talking about the dragon priest Vahlok the Jailer. Vahlok's rule over Solstheim was remembered by his epic clash with Vahlok, which was the reason for Solstheim's supposed splintering from the mainland of Skyrim. I've probably mentioned this character in some of my past videos, but I wouldn't be able to pinpoint exactly which one since I've done a lot of videos over the past 5 years. His story though is definitely an interesting one, and I hope you'll enjoy hearing about it. Dragon priests came from an age of hatred and tyranny, being given permission and immense power to reign over the men of First Era Skyrim by their dragon overlords. We know these priests in the way that we battle them in their respective tombs in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. They are in their current lich-like appearance, and that's a perfect representation of most of their evil nature. While studying the dragon priests of Skyrim, we see a recurring theme of cruelty directed towards the human settlements by the dragon priests, but there were several dragon priests that supposedly governed their territory properly. One of whom was Vahlok, or Guardian in the Dova tongue. He was a priest that was given a specific part of Solstheim to rule in favor of the dragon cult. His early life is largely unknown due to the fact that there aren't any readable scrolls and scripts left from the First Era, but considering his title as dragon priest, Vahlok probably underwent the same indoctrination process as the other dragon priests. The dragon cult must have then seen extraordinary traits of power within him, and thus eventually he would be promoted to dragon priest. His role in Solstheim was insignificant at first, seeing as there were other dragon priests such as Miraak, Azidal, Dukan and Sakrisos occupying other lands in the region. Most of the dragon priests in Vahlok's time had basically their own ulterior motives and interests at heart, meaning that they were mostly forwarding their own interests, while either neglecting their human subjects or straight up abusing them to get their interests. This trend of abuse was common mainly because the fact that dragon priests got corrupted by the sense of power that the dragon cult gave them over the years, and they ended up using it to further develop their own talents and strengths. It's important to understand that it did not start like that, as at the beginning dragon priests were mostly fair rulers, especially back on Atmora before the Needs came to Tamriel. The dragon priests there functioned as the heads of the dragon cult, the ancient Nedic religion which worshipped the animals and then saw the dragons as chief among the animals. The dragon cult saw the dragons as their rightful rulers, as they were intelligent beings and that they were far more powerful than the humans. And as we have touched on before in other videos, dragons saw themselves as entitled to rule over the mortal humans as they were far more powerful. However, the dragons weren't, particularly concerned with stuff like government. They just wanted the humans to worship them and then absolutely dominate over them. Thus, there were several mortal men appointed as the rulers over mankind who ruled in the name of the dragons and functioned as a sort of link between the dragons and their subjects, and who made sure that the wishes of the dragons got relayed to the subjects. In the first couple of centuries this went really well, and the dragon priests, which were the link between the dragons and the humans, they were fair rulers and, the whole thing worked. But as time went on, some went corrupted, and this was especially so with Tamriel's dragon priests, who started oppressing the people for their own gains. The dragons, as overlords of the dragon cult, although they were aware of this, often didn't really mind, since it meant that their priests were getting stronger and their rule would even be harder to dispute for the mortals that they were oppressing. One thing that they failed to control, however, was the civil unrest that unraveled as a result of their neglect and thus eventually led to the Dragon War. However, there were exceptions to that rule of civil unrest, specifically the dragon priests of Atmora, and on Solstheim there was Vahlok, who focused his wisdom and power on governing his people fairly, while simultaneously showing his undying loyalty to the dragon cult. Ancient Skal folklore basically paints him as a noble and wise man in terms of governing. He treated his subjects fairly, which in turn motivated them to function more efficiently. This was apparent to the dragon cult because of how prosperous his settlements were, and his reputation steadily rose as one of the most loyal and beloved priests of the dragon cult. Folklore also seems to link Vahlok to a time of peace and prosperity for the people of Solstheim, something we don't really expect to hear when discussing the legacy and history of most dragon priests. As for the other dragon priests over Solstheim, Miraak was presumably the highest ranking dragon priest at the time. Him conspiring against the dragon cult by allying with the Daedric prince Hermaeus Mora took the dragon cult by surprise, as they suddenly had a turn cult in their hands. Vahlok was the first to discover Mirak's secret planning and proceeded to successfully rally both men and dragons loyal to the dragon cult to confront Mirak. Their confrontation was brutal, and legend says that they battled for what seemed like days on end, splintering Solstheim with their sheer magical power. At this point, we're faced with multiple possibilities on the outcome of this battle, because some accounts claim that Vahlok eventually defeated Mirak, but that Hermaeus Mora then transported a fatally wounded Mirak to Apocrypha before Vahlok could deal the killing blow. Vahlok was then made to swear an oath that he would watch for Mirak's potential return, since of course Mirak hadn't been killed. Other reports, however, claim that Vahlok managed to weaken Mirak enough to transport him to his monastery, where he was jailed in a tomb created by the ancient Skal. Vahlok then kept vigilant watch over the tomb, and even after Mirak's death, he was left in the tomb. Either way, both stories make it clear that after this magnificent battle, Vahlok was given numerous accolades of bravery and glory, making him the ruler of all of Solstheim for a long time, and he was the jailer of Mirak, hence the name Vahlok the Jailer. If we encounter Vahlok in Lich form during the Elder Scrolls V Dragonborn DLC, we notice that he actually bears no mask, as you could see in all the screenshots in this video. This little detail could give us further information about what happened during the battle, because his mask might have been destroyed in the battle, or maybe he did not wear one, or maybe he was never simply issued one, because the latter seems less likely due to his reputation with the Dragon Cult after Mirak was defeated, since, he was one of the highest ranking Dragon Priests and thus probably got a mask. However, some say that the masks of the Dragon Priests were actually given to the priests as powerful artifacts to serve as a tool for keeping their people under control. So, if that theory is true, Vahlok might not really have needed one, since he was pretty beloved by his own people, and thus might not even need a mask or might not even want one. We don't know the exact details on that one. As far as the Dragon Priests go, however, Vahlok definitely stood out from the rest, as all we hear from the Dragon Priests are basically the atrocities that the other priests committed. But as I mentioned before, there was a different time, as during the time of the Dragon Cult back in Atmora, priests like Vahlok were the common standard, which is why we never really heard of any major dragon rebellions in Atmora. People were often kept in check and given a reasonable amount of humanity and ruled over fairly, like under Vahlok on Solstheim. This mentality of fair rule became a blurred line after Atmora, and years after their expansion into Skyrim, things started to change for the worse for the Dragon Cult, as Dragon Priests started to abuse their people. If the entirety of the Dragon Cult's Dragon Priests ruled like Vahlok, there would have probably been less turmoil within the societies of men back in the day. Regardless, men are easily corrupted, and there's a lust for power that's beyond them, which is why such a cult would have likely eventually crumbled anyway. But if all of the Dragon Priests hadn't been corrupted, we might have seen the Dragon Cult, survive into maybe the second era or maybe even the third era. So, that was the story of Vahlok the Jailer. Huge thanks to my friend Zith, who collaborated with me on the research for this video. He's a really good guy, and his channel is in the description, as he often makes Elder Scrolls lore content as well, which I can heartily recommend to check out. He also makes Witcher content, which is very interesting, because I recently wanted to replay The Witcher 3, and I actually watched one of his videos, so yeah, link in the description. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this story of Vahlok the Jailer. If you did, consider returning next time for the next Elder Scrolls lore video. Before I end this, allow me to thank my top patrons, Mr. Bernardo Binda, Gabriel Binda and Mr. Christmas. These guys and all the others on screen make my lore videos possible, and for that I am very grateful. That said, I will see you all next time. Bye bye.